If you like our content, please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get alerts when we introduce new videos.
So in this module we're going to continue to look at debugging, and specifically how now we can use the inbuilt features of the IoT controller to back up the entire database of a controller and move it onto a different controller. Now you might want to do this for a number of different reasons, including bringing up a backup, or if your controller goes down for any particular reason, corrupt for hard disk drive or something like that, then you can do a reinstall and a validation of your system. So here we are logged into our IoT controller, and you can see here the version of the IoT controller that we are running and the host name of the IoT controller here. You can see that currently we have it set to a European London time zone, and in this particular environment we have a very simple setup, but we have a single access point which is using an H510 on this IP address, configured as Zigbee and configured with the correct firmware. And we also have a single device, door sensor in this case, connected to that access point, and you can see that if I open or close the door contact, you can see the state changes from 48 to 49 as I open and close that door contact. So the network is fully operational and working in its current configuration as it stands. So we can actually see also we have our event log, so we can see everything that's going on within our event log and anything that has been detected or identified within this controller. We have our plugins currently not configured in this particular device, but you can see we have everything set up, and we also have a rules engine running as well. So we have our full-blown rules engine running as our IoT controller application. So what we're going to do is, top of the interface that we have running, is we're actually going to go to our administration tab, and we're going to back up our database. So you'll see we have a DB backup button here. I can delete this one that's in here now. And basically we can now create a new backup. So this will now have the system run now in the background and compress all of the system files that are needed and that represent this IoT controller. So that is everything, including the rules engine, all of the access point information, device information, sensors, plugins, everything that makes this IoT controller configured the way it is compressed, backed up, and stored into a file. So we'll leave that to run in the background. And you can see the file has now been created. So we get a file, and it's identified as a database because it has the DB extension, and then it has the date and time that the file was created. So you can see currently, as I mentioned, this machine's version and its host name and its region are all correctly set. So what I can do now is I will download this file to my local machine. Okay, and that has now downloaded. You can see it's quite a large file. It's about 50 megabytes. So what we can do is we can restore that, but what we'll do is we'll restore it onto a fresh machine. So what we'll do is we'll take this IoT controller now, and we will restore it to a factory configuration. So we'll basically blow away everything that is on this IoT controller and restore this controller back to the factory default settings. So that will delete everything that's in, and this will be the same, exactly the same as if we had just installed or provisioned a brand new IoT controller and installed it onto our environment. So that'll take a minute or so to happen. Okay, so our IoT controller is now starting after we've restored it or done a reinstall. Now, I'm not going to go through the normal steps that we would do for a full installation. So in this particular, I'm just going to blast through, because we're going to be restoring from a database file. All of the settings that we would normally configure in here will be restored automatically. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave all of this set to default, including the time zone information. The only thing I need to give it is a password. So I'm going to put in an arbitrary password. But again, this is going to be overwritten by our database restore. So again, I can now start the IoT controller. I can accept our license agreement as always. And then we just need to wait for the IoT controller to now restart and come up in its default configuration. Okay, and now the IoT controller has restarted. So you can see it's now presented us with our login, but this is a fresh, brand new IoT controller. So we need to log in with the username and password that we created when we logged in the system. and we can now log in the platform. And now you can see here the version number, you can see the time zone is incorrect. There's no host name set, there is no access points on board. As we go through the system, you'll see that there are no APs configured, no gateways, there are no devices configured, the event log is empty. And as we look in the administration pane, you'll see that obviously there are no default configurations or databases or files that have been set up within the system. So you can see here all our services are running, but again, if we look at our plugins, there's nothing actually configured. And again, our database backup, you'll see there's nothing listed. Again, within our rules, we just have our default rules engine that has been applied. There is no advanced IoT insights. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our admin tab, and we're going to go to our database backup, and we're now going to upload our backup file. So the file that we downloaded into our local PC, we're now going to upload that into our controller. So we need to confirm that obviously as soon as we upload the file, the system will perform a reboot and a restart, and it will then come up with the new configuration. So we need to confirm that, and now we need to select our file. So this is the file that we downloaded from when we backed up, and you can see we're now uploading that file. Now this is going to take a little bit of time to upload, and then once it's completed the upload, it will then restart the system. Okay, so there you can see the backup has successfully been uploaded. So now the system will extract that file and use all of the various settings within that file to rebuild the system from scratch. Okay, and after a period of time, the IoT controller now logs us out because we've now restored the system back. So again, we now need to log in. Now this time the login will be the username and password of the original IoT controller system. So if that had a different username and password, that will now be instigated accordingly. So let's log into our IoT controller, and you can now see immediately that it's different. So we now have a device that is being configured, we have an access point or an IoT gateway that has also been configured. Now it's still saying it's offline because it hasn't yet communicated with the IoT controller, but we'll keep an eye out for that in a moment. You can see that it's now been recognized, it's on board, it's already approved. So we don't need to do anything because this is a backup of an original system. We're just waiting for it now to connect to the controller. We can also see that our door sensor that was on the original controller is also there, and it's currently offline because the IoT controller, the gateway, is offline. We can see if we look at our event log that all of the information that was in our original event log is now back and visible. Again, if we go to our admin tab, we can see that if we go, for example, to our database backup and to our rules backup, we can see that everything is as it was originally within the original IoT controller. And again, our rules now is actually running our IoT insights versus our original dashboard. So all of the major system configuration has been backed up. Another way we can also tell is if you notice the time zone has changed to the originally set value, as has the host name. So all of the settings from our original IoT controller that were backed up have now been restored into our current AP and our current IoT controller. So all we need to do now is to just wait for single access points and our gateways to now connect to the controller, and then we can check that all of the rest of the system is up and operational. Okay, and there you can see that this IoT gateway has now reconnected back to the IoT controller. Even though it's a brand new IoT controller, they've reconnected, and you can see that it's now showing us online. And if we go to our devices tab, you can also now see that this device is now also showing as online within the IoT controller. So again, we can open this device, we can look at the status information, and again, if I trigger an event on this door sensor now, you can see the door sensor trigger zone status changes from 4.9 to 4.8 and 4.8 to 4.9, indicating that the device is correctly transitioning state changes back to the IoT controller. So that concludes our example of how we can back up and restore a full database from an IoT controller to both either backup or to migrate the controller from one location to another location.